come to order. Good morning, everybody. Today, the EPW Committee is holding its 9th oversight hearing with the NRC since the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear meltdown in Japan. It's been more than 3 years since the Fukushima disaster, and Japan is still struggling to clean up the site. The massive underground ice wall intended to prevent radioactive water from flowing into the sea will take a year to finish and cost more than $300 million. We must learn from the tragic events in Fukushima and take all necessary steps to ensure the safety of nuclear facilities in the United States. Today, I'm going to continue to focus on whether the NRC has done that. It's vitally important that the NRC remain committed to its mission, which is, and I quote, to ensure the safe use of radioactive materials for beneficial civilian purposes while protecting people and the environment. Based on a review of the progress made since the Fukushima disaster and on what additional steps need to be taken by NRC to ensure the safety of the people and the environment, which is your charge, I'm afraid that you may have lost sight of your mission. The Fukushima Near-Term Task Force, made up of NRC senior staff, recommended 12 measures to upgrade safety in the wake of the Fukushima meltdowns. In August 2011, the former NRC chairman testified before our committee that the NRC should be able to act on those recommendations within 90 days and that they could be implemented within 5 years. As of today, and I think I have a chart here, the NRC has failed to require reactor operators to complete implementation of a single one of the post-Fukushima safety measures. This is scandalous. Some reactor operators are still not in compliance with the safety requirements that were in place before Fukushima, and the NRC has only completed its own action on 4 of the 12 task force recommendations. Now, your team that you praise all the time told you you got to do this. This is unacceptable, this delay, and it puts the safety of the American people at risk. Thank you. And we have this just in case. Well, I'm sure you know what these are, but we have these for you. I also have serious concerns about the safety of spent nuclear fuel. NRC's own studies show that the consequences of a fire at a spent nuclear fuel pool can be as serious as a severe accident at an operating reactor. Not only does NRC allow that fuel to be stored in the spent fuel pools indefinitely, NRC is considering requests from decommissioning reactor operators for exemptions from emergency response measures designed to protect nearby communities. While the Nuclear Energy Institute claimed in a letter sent to me yesterday that these exemptions are granted only when, quote, special circumstances, unquote, exist at a facility, the truth is that never has the NRC denied even one waiver request. It rubber stamps them every single time a reactor shuts down. I've introduced 3 bills with Senators Markey and Sanders to increase the safety of spent nuclear fuel and improve the decommissioning process. These are not theoretical concerns. On the same day that this committee held a hearing on this topic last month, an out-of-control wildfire was burning a half a mile away from the San Onofre nuclear plant. Those are the people of California, millions and millions of them. This is it. And this plant is asking for a waiver so they don't have to deal with any type of emergency response. My concern about NRC's commitment to identify and remedy safety problems is also highlighted by my investigation into the installation of defective equipment at San Onofre. For example, I learned that the NRC staff was preparing to allow the restart of one of the reactors before it had received a single answer to any of the technical safety questions it asked Southern California Edison to submit, a continuing of the pattern of doing everything that you're asked to do by the industry. This oversight investigation that I'm conducting is important, not only to get to the bottom of the problems at San Onofre, but to avoid disastrous problems like this in the future. I'm also concerned that whistleblowers at NRC feel they have no recourse but to contact Congress to report safety problems, and that's what they are doing, ladies and gentlemen, because NRC's internal procedures for addressing these concerns are broken. Remarkably, NRC is continuing to obstruct my investigation by withholding documents that the committee has a right to receive. Let me be clear. The NRC has no legal right whatsoever to refuse to provide the committee with these documents, and today I will make available a comprehensive analysis of this conclusion. In order for the nuclear industry to maintain the confidence of the people, and we have a lot of people here who are very strong supporters of the nuclear industry, I believe it's critical that you step up to the plate on safety. NRC's recent track record does not inspire confidence, and that does not bode well, because at the end of the day, if the American people don't want to have a reactor near them because of these problems, the industry is just not going to be there in the future. And there's a lot of people on this committee that want to see the industry in the future. So I do look forward to asking you some more questions, and with that, I call on Senator Vitter. I want to thank you all for your testimony. Chairman McFarland, the NRC is still withholding 2 categories of documents related to the San Onofre investigation from this committee. You've repeatedly told me that the reason the NRC is withholding these documents is because of, quote, constitutional separation of powers concerns. Now, I asked after working feverishly with your legal staff and my legal team and them, couldn't get the information. I asked a renowned constitutional scholar, Morton Rosenberg, who worked for CRS in the American Law Division for 35 years, and you have cited him often in your correspondence with us. This is what he says. He said, your letters to me demonstrate, and I quote, a profound misunderstanding of Congress's investigatory power, and that they misstate court decisions, they ignore overwhelmingly contrary case law that supports the committee's right to receive the materials, and they show, quote, a lack of awareness of over 90 years of congressional investigations in which agencies have had to give Congress what it asked for. And I'm going to ask unanimous consent that I place his paper into the record at this time. Chairman McFarland, you're clearly relying on misguided and deeply flawed legal advice, and it is time for you to decide for yourself. Will the NRC follow the law and give the committee what it has asked for or not?
Chairman Boxer, I would like to be clear that the Commission has not come to its position lightly. We have spent much time and effort studying the situation, seeking views on the situation, so that we feel we've been able to provide you with as much information as we believe that we can. There are 2 categories of documents that we feel we need to protect, but we trust that the many, many documents that we've already provided you for your investigations have been helpful.
Well, let me just say, I mean, obviously, the answer to my question is you're going to stick with the legal advice you've been given, which I am told by a scholar is totally wrong. I didn't say you came to the decision lightly. I said you came to it wrongly. And so you still take that position. This committee is going to do its work. We're going to get these documents. And when you read this analysis, and we'll send it to your team, we hope that you will change your mind, because it's very, very serious what is being withheld. We need to see it. And by the way, we'll get it one way or the other, but we need to have it. Now, many of you have said you're thrilled about the progress. Thrilled isn't your word. You're very pleased with the progress you're making post-Fukushima. So could we put up those 12 recommendations? As a matter of fact, you used words that, you know, exclaim all the progress, and from the chairman on down. So I'd like to ask you, as far as you know, have any of these 12 been implemented?
Some of them have been implemented.
Which ones have been implemented?
What we did at the Commission after the near-term task force presented us with those 12 recommendations, we prioritized those recommendations
I didn't ask
into
you that.
3 categories.
No. I'm asking you, these 12 recommendations that were made by your top staff, and you lauded them, all of you, I want to know, I have the answer, I just want to get you to confirm it. I have the answer. Not one of these has been implemented by industry on the ground. Do you disagree with that?
Chairman, those are recommendations. Based on those recommendations, we issued a number of orders, a number of requests for information, and we've entered into a number of rulemakings, and we are still in process.
I'm asking you a question. Has industry implemented any of these 12? They haven't. And so you can sit there and say you're proud and everything else. The fact is not one of these has been implemented on the ground. It's 3 years and counting. Now, my last...
Madam Chairman, I'd like to hear from the Commission where
well, I
they
know,
are
well,
in the
I'm running
process.
out of time, so you can ask it on your time.
All right.
Would you add another 10 seconds on, please? Now, this last question is very important because it deals with a decision you made, which is to keep the spent fuels where they are and not move them to dry casks. And in that decision, you assumed emergency planning at these plants would be in place. So I'm asking each of you a very important question. You saw the photo. Could you show the photo one more time of how close that fire came to San Onofre, where it's 8 million of our people live within 50 miles. When I saw that, my heart stopped. I assume yours heart stopped too. Now, that plant is shut down, and there's these fuel rods that are hot right there. You've decided not to move them. I am asking you each, if you are asked to waive the requirement that this plant have an evacuation plan in place, if you are asked to waive that, will you deny that request? You're making a face like you didn't understand, so I'll say it again. You have been asked, as I understand it, by the operator to waive the requirement that there be emergency evacuations planning at that site. They don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to have the sirens. They don't want to have the plans. 8 million people, a fire came within half a mile. Will you deny that request? I'm asking you yes or no.
Exemptions are not waivers. The plant may have applied for an exemption. That is not a waiver. And
it's fine.
Emergency
Call it an exemption.
preparedness.
Will you deny the exemption?
Emergency preparedness at decommissioning plants may, in some cases, be reduced in scope, but it will not be eliminated. I want to be clear on that. And exemptions for decommissioning plants are done on a site-specific basis.
So I'm asking
they are carefully considered.
Will you deny the exemption from safety for this plant when it is presented to you?
We will
yes
always,
or no, or you don't know?
We will ensure that the plant will be safe.
That's not my answer. That's not the answer to my question. Say yes or no, or I don't know, or I can't answer it.
We will ensure.
Will you deny a request for an exemption
we will
from
ensure
any emergency plans?
We will ensure that the plant will be safe.
You won't answer it.
There will be
Madam Chair, will you let our witnesses answer your question?
She won't
I mean, the
answer
way
it.
it normally works is you get to ask the question, but they do get to answer.
Will you answer yes or no, or I don't know? I don't need a lengthy explanation because my question is quite simple. Will you vote to deny an exemption from safety rules from the operator at San Onofre? Yes, no, or I don't know yet.
As I said, exemptions are done on a site-specific basis, and they're based on an established process.
The more you talk, the more you ignore my question. I'm asking you, I'm giving you 3 choices. They're fair. Yes, no, I don't know.
Madam Chair, we don't normally have hearings requiring the witnesses to fill in
when you have this
bubble
gavel,
test forms.
you make the rules. Yes, no, or I don't know. Would you please answer?
At this point in
You'll make the
time,
rules.
I have not been presented with enough information to make a decision.
Then you don't know. Honorable Svinicki.
Respectfully, Chairman, I won't prejudge the action, so I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yes?
I haven't seen the exemption request yet.
I agree with my colleagues.
Great. Well, let me just say, for the record, never has the NRC ever denied a request for an exemption from safety. Now, I got to tell you, this is in my mind, it's in my heart, and the people in my state expect you to protect them. The fact that you cannot commit today to uphold the safety planning for this plant, given that the number of fuel rods that are in there are far greater than the plant was planned for, which you allowed. I'm not saying you, but the commission allowed. It's outrageous. And you wonder why people are losing confidence. Senator Vitter.
Yep.
And Senator, thank you for bringing up the evacuation issue, because that's what I'm going to now talk about again. So thank you. It is my understanding that the commission has never in its history turned down a request for a exemption from having to have evacuation plans. Do any of you think I'm wrong on that? Tell me, an evacuation plan. And if so, which one did you turn down?
I'll have to take that for the record, Chairman.
Okay, just know that we've exhausted the record and there isn't any. But you go ahead and let us know if I'm wrong. Anybody else have anything that knows that? Okay. So let's be clear about this, folks. This commission has a very easy record to access on that question. And there has never been a time when an operator was told that they had to keep an evacuation plan in place. And let me tell you again, that's your job, is to ensure safety. And let me say this to the chairman. Is this not your quote? When asked whether or not a shutdown plant could be dangerous, this is what you said. The fire could well spread to older spent fuel. The long-term land contamination consequences of such an event could be significantly worse than those from Chernobyl. Do you remember saying that or writing that?
That's from the 2003 paper?
Yes.
It was a collaborative effort, that paper.
Did you sign that statement?
I am one of the authors, that is correct.
Thank you. And is it not true that the NRC said in 2001 spent fuel fires could have health effects comparable to those of a severe reactor accident? Does anyone think that that's a misstatement by myself? Okay, so let's just be clear. Anyone who says it's not serious because you've shut down if there's a fire doesn't know what they're talking about. Let's just be clear. Let's just be clear. Now, Senator Vitter, who interrupted me several times, doesn't know that my operator there for San Onofre submitted these many pages of exemption requests. Now, let me just tell you what they're asking for. The proposed exemption would allow the operator to discontinue off-site emergency planning activities. Senator Markey, would you join me right up here? I know you were presiding, and we appreciate your being here. Let me say again, this is what they're asking you for. The operator is asking to discontinue off-site emergency planning activities and reduce the scope of on-site emergency planning. Examples of requirements subject to the proposed exemption that are related to discontinuing off-site emergency planning activities include, but are not limited to, requirements for off-site agency emergency plans, emergency planning zones, and ingestion pathway zones, the emergency operations facility, evacuation time estimates, off-site notification timeliness, off-site dose projections, protective action recommendations, examples of requirements subject to the proposed exemption that are related to reducing the scope of on-site emergency planning activities. Now look, they're basically asking to be let off the hook. And if you grant this exemption, and you've never turned one down before, and you won't answer my question, none of you will, I'm going to show again the picture. I want Senator Markey to see this, of how close a fire in California came to that decommissioned plant. Now, do any of you know how many hot fuel, spent fuel rods are in that plant?
I do not have an exact number. I can take that for the record if you like.
Anybody else know how many? Just for the record, 2,600. Do you know what it was designed for?
The original design or
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
re-racking had been done? If it was the original design
yeah.
and the open frame racks, probably about a quarter of that amount.
1,300. So this doesn't even go into other decommissioned plants. So anyone who says that a shutdown plant is not as dangerous has to just read what the chairman herself said, read what the NRC said. The consequences of an event could be significantly worse than those from Chernobyl. And I got to tell you, I represent those people, just like Senator Vitter represents his people and worries night and day about their safety from hurricanes and the rest. I worry about my people. And I'm not going to stop, because I can't get any one of you to commit to me that you will turn down this request for everything that they want to waive. And you've never turned it down before, and you won't answer the question. And that, yes, would you like to answer the
Senator,
question?
if I could just, for clarification.
Yeah.
This commission has not received any document or request for commission decision-making on this topic.
Well, then you don't know your work,
wanna
because
make
it's
sure I
March
understood
20.
that.
No, I'm sorry. This was sent to you on March 31st. So what happened to your record keeping here? People didn't give you this information? Madam Chairman, why doesn't Commissioner know about this?
It's sent to the staff. It has not been brought up to the commission.
How long do the staff sit on it before they let you know about it?
As I said before, the staff, we have an established process, and the staff does detailed technical analysis. We do not take these decisions lightly. We take them very seriously.
When are you going to have the staff report, Madam Chairman?
I do not know, but I can get that
do not
information
know.
for you.
You do not know. Well, let me tell you, you better know, because I've got 8 million people that live within 50 miles of that site. I had a fire that came within half a mile of that site, and the operator had to evacuate the people inside. And now they don't want to have evacuation plans. This is a no-brainer. I'm sorry. You can sit there and say, we take it seriously? Really? Well, then let me just tell you, this facility sits on an earthquake zone, on a tsunami zone. You know what happens. You yourself wrote in a collaboration with other people that an accident here could be worse than Chernobyl. So all I'm saying is, March 31st, I got this. I think it would be nice if the commissioners got this, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to make sure that before the staff goes through it, the commissioners get this. Yes, sir.
Just, Senator, thanks for giving me a chance.
Of course.
I think we've all been aware that our staff has received the document you're referring to. But as the chairman noted, it's in a staff process. I will tell you that I had a discussion within the last week with Mike Johnson, who I think is here, who has briefed me on the status of this and the fact it's working, and there's discussions with FEMA on these issues. So I want to assure you that this is working through our process, and we owe you a response as to when a decision could be expected.
I will await that response, but I want to say again, to me, there's an urgency. And to you, there should be an urgency. This isn't just any power plant. This is a nuclear power plant that has many of these spent fuel rods, okay? In an earthquake zone, a tsunami zone, and a fire came within half a mile. So I hope the staff will work overtime, just like my staff does when there's an emergency, because that's what I consider it. Yes.
Chairman, can I just want to be clear that emergency preparedness will not be eliminated at the site.
Okay, so
I
you're
do want to be
agreeing.
clear about that.
So
We
you're
will not
agreeing.
eliminate emergency preparedness.
So
We
now
will-
you're agreeing that you will not allow them this exemption that they're asking for all of this.
We will not eliminate emergency preparedness. Sometimes it's reduced in scope. after we've
Okay,
considered
then, thank
request.
you. Let me ask you that. So you will not waive the requirement for off-site evacuation plans,
I do not know the details of this
and you will not
request yet.
waive their request to be exempted from having warning sirens.
I do not know the details of this request. They have to prove to us that they can maintain the safe level of operation and under decommissioning that they,
And you don't know right now if you will eliminate off-site evacuation plans, warning sirens. What about relocation centers?
we will ensure that the site will be safe. And
But
we will
you cannot
ensure
answer
that
me.
there are adequate measures in place to respond to any kind of radiological emergency.
Fair
Of
enough.
course.
Fair enough.
That is our mission.
Fair enough. So let me ask you this. Do you think off-site evacuation plans are a necessary part of that facility being safe? Do you believe personally? You can't answer for anyone else. Do you believe that having off-site evacuation plans are a necessary part of having that facility safe?
An operating facility, of course, always requires evacuation plans.
So you will not waive that requirement?
I will have to consider it as
So
I
you won't
said, we
answer that.
consider the site-specific requirements.
You have never said no to exemptions of all off-site emergency plans. So that's why I'm drilling down on this, because the NRC, who cares a lot about safety, that's your job, have never, ever turned down such a plan. So let me just tell you this. I am deeply troubled that commissioners haven't seen this. Commissioners, maybe they knew about the fire. If I were one of you, I certainly would have said, what's happening? This could have been, I don't even want to say, the type of disaster. All I have to do is quote the chairman in her 2003 paper, in which she said, the fire could well spread to older spent fuel. The long-term land contamination consequences of such an event could be significantly worse than those from Chernobyl. Senator Vitter.
Yeah.
Senator, thank you. What I did say was, in light of this near disaster, I am very disappointed that the commissioners haven't gotten more involved at this point. Senator Markey. Well, I want to thank the commission. You'll be glad to know that I just have a few more questions. You know, I'm glad there's a spirit of collegiality among all of you. That's fine. You ought to have it at the workplace so that whistleblowers don't get attacked and shut out. And I want to thank Senator Markey for pointing that out. It's easy for 5 grown-ups to be collegial. I'm very collegial with all my colleagues. We go at it. We certainly don't agree, but I really like them personally, so good for you for that. But we need to take that spirit and infuse it so that whistleblowers aren't fearful. And we look forward to your response. Mr. Magwood, you said you had no concerns with safety at any of our plants in this testimony today. Is that correct?
I said I don't have concerns about safety at U.S. nuclear power plants.
That's what I just said.
Yes. So I would not, I certainly am not saying that there are not issues that need to be looked at specific plants. And
But you don't have any, you said I don't have any concerns post-Fukushima. So let me ask you this question. Why did San Onofre shut down? Why did Crystal River shut down? Why did Vermont Yankee shut down? Why did Kewaunee shut down? Why did Oyster Creek is going to close at the end of 2019? If they're all so hunky-dory.
well, I think you would find that for each of those plants, there's a different reason. I could go through each one if you like, but some of them were for financial reasons. Others were for
Well, just why don't you talk about the ones that had safety problems? Because you said it was fine. You had no concerns.
I don't
so
think
which
that-
one of those had safety
I don't think
problems?
any of those plants were shut down because they were not being operated safely. I think some of those plants were shut down because they had equipment issues that became
Well, that's
problematic.
safety, isn't it?
No, it was never a safety issue because
It wasn't a safety issue at
it
San
was-
Onofre.
San Onofre's steam generators were flawed.
With
The
leaking.
plant was not, and the plant was shut down after the leak
My
was
point.
discovered.
Okay, so when I'm saying, when a commissioner says this in the opening statement, I have no concerns. Let's be clear, there are concerns. And when Senator Sessions says what we all hope is true, that everything is safe and we've never had a problem, that we did have a couple, but this is what we all want. So we all want it to be true, because let me assure everyone here, before Fukushima, the Japanese were saying the same thing, Senator Sessions. The Japanese were saying, we have safety in our nuclear industry, and then Fukushima. So if we do our jobs and you do yours, we can avoid something like that. So when you tell us that you haven't done one of the 12 recommendations of your own staff, not one has been implemented, that's disastrous. And I think anyone of the American people would say, wait, it's been 3 years. Now, I'm going to turn to another issue of travel. At our last hearing, you all committed to making your travel and meeting calendars available. And you have all made some effort in response, and I thank you. But it's not really enough. Only Chairman McFarland's meeting calendar contains any detail about what each meeting was about. Until just a couple of days ago, Chairman McFarland and Commissioner Svinicki's calendars hadn't been updated since March. And not a single one of you provided advance public notice of any of your meetings. By contrast, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, their meeting policy requires advance public disclosure of all meetings, including travel. I'm sure you know why this is the case. The American people need to know who you're meeting with, because your decisions are very important. If an agency that regulates toys and other consumer products can do that disclosure, so can an agency that regulates nuclear reactors, and we have bipartisan support for this. Going forward, will each of you commit to providing advance notice of your meetings and your travel, and providing information about the topics intended to be discussed at each meeting, starting with the Chairman?
I commit to providing to the degree that I can, because my schedule changes on a daily, sometimes hourly basis, as I'm sure does yours.
Sure.
Some of the, certainly for my travel, advance notice of my travel and other meetings to the degree that I can.
Commissioner Svinicki.
Chairman Boxer, I would request the opportunity to respond for the record, so I...
Sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pastelakis.
I will not have any problem doing that.
Thank you. Commissioner Magwood.
Chairman, at my confirmation hearing, I promised to make my calendar available. I've done that from the moment that I've been on the commission. I have published my calendar continuously. I have not made a practice of putting a lot of detail in the calendar. I will look at doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
because it's important we know who you're meeting with.
Chairman Boxer,
yes.
My calendar as far as meetings with groups is on my website. I have an open door policy, and I understand your concern.
Excellent. That's excellent. Now, Commissioner Magwood, this is delicate, but travel records you provided to this committee indicate you spent 127 days on international travel since 2010. They also indicate that before you leave the commission this summer, you'll be spending more than 3 weeks visiting the United Arab Emirates, Malaysia, Japan, and Brazil. Do you think that it best serves NRC's safety mission to have you traveling the world just before you resign your seat?
I do think my travel is appropriate. First, let me indicate that I am not going to Brazil. That was an invitation that I was considering and have ultimately decided not to take that trip. The other visits, I think, are very important. Despite the fact that I am stepping down from the commission later this summer, the presence of an NRC commissioner in many of these countries is important. Whether it's either me or Commissioner Osendorf or Pakalakis, it doesn't really matter which of us it is. The fact that the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission goes to these countries and represents the causes of regulatory independence is very important to these people. Okay. And so I think my travel is very important.
I'm curious about a few. I'm seriously interested. In the United Arab Emirates, do they have nuclear power? What's the issue there that you'll be addressing in that country?
Well, I hesitate to get into a lot of detail in an open session, but let me say that we are watching very closely as a new regulator is assembled. They have a lot of challenges. Some of them are cultural challenges. And it's a good time for someone from an NRC commission to visit again to reinforce some of the messages about regulatory independence as they both assemble a new regulator and assembled nuclear power plants, which are under construction,
Independence from,
from other policy issues.
I don't understand. I don't understand that, but that's okay. In Malaysia, what's happening over there?
Same sort of thing. Malaysia is considering new nuclear power plants. They have a very, they have a regulator that is under the process of being restructured. Our staff thinks it's a good time for an NRC commissioner to go and talk about issues such as regulatory independence, and I was happy to try to do that.
And Japan, I think, is good. Are you going to go over and get a briefing on Fukushima?
I'm actually planning to visit Fukushima again.
Good. Well, let me say this. I think that makes a lot of sense. But you know, everybody makes a decision. But I just want to speak as someone who cares a lot about the safety at the San Onofre plant. You haven't even seen the documents. I gave them to Mr. Ostendorf, but there's so much to be done. Not one of the 12 recommendations has gone into place. The operator at San Onofre is asking for exemptions from all kinds of emergency planning when a fire was a half a mile away. And I just wish, I need your leadership here. I need your leadership here. Now, maybe your leadership is more important at the United Arab Emirates, but from my point of view, I am being honest here, you've got a backlog. I mean, the chairman couldn't answer a lot of questions because it's all, you know, she's got to get back to me. We have to look at this. And I just hope you'll consider this. In any event, I want to thank you all. I know these hearings are very difficult because you've made decisions, as the chairman said, and you're done. You're done with looking at spent fuels. You voted. No, you're not done because we have oversight over you, and it's uncomfortable. But we're going to keep on doing it. I think this was our ninth since Fukushima, and we're going to keep it up. I want to thank all colleagues, and we stand adjourned.